what made you, when he reached out to you, what made you believe, you know, I think Tiger should do this, and I know I can help him.
Yeah. I felt I worked off the premise that I thought the way he had swung it in that, say, 97 to 2000, whatever, two or whatever window, and just whatever, pick 2000 for, even though I think 97, even though it was sort of different in terms of where it was at the top, it was through the ball. Like I thought, unbelievable and pretty similar to what it was in 2000. So I think in terms of like what, in my opinion, really matters, they're still pretty similar swings. And look, in 97, he won the Masters by 12 shots. It's pretty good, right? So I thought I thought that was, essentially the gold standard for how anybody has swung a golf club, and in particular, the gold standard for how he has swung a golf club. So to me, in terms of like, you know, the way his hands and arms and the club worked through the ball, we got to get as close to that as possible in a way that your body can do, given having had some back injuries. And the back stuff, pretty not too crazy. Just like try not to have a lot of like lateral flexion. Try not to go into sort of a ton of lordosis through the shot. Just things that are pretty well known to not be great on the back. And how do we match things up in a way that can get, for lack of a better way to put it, that older release pattern through the shot, given again what your body can do. That was the rough sort of game plan in my mind. In terms of knowing that I could help them, I don't know. I thought it was pretty simple logic, and it was like I wasn't going off of some theoretical model that I was trying to put on them. I wasn't throwing a bunch of like biomechanics fancy language, no matter like how much people would like to think that I was like being super technical. I was like showing him a ton of footage of a swing in 2000 and showing him pictures of things that he said in his book that he had written in 2000, because in his mind he's like trying to do one thing with his release, and it's like look man, you were doing this, you even wrote about it, and just trying to present a case for, hey, this is the direction I think we should go, which was all in reference to things he had already done before. And early on it was like it looked pretty good. I was pumped about it, and then he goes to Isleworth, and then I don't think he necessarily hit it bad out there. He was actually, I remember he was sick on the range before that round too. He like had the flu or whatever. And, but he goes out and he just, starts stuffing his chips, and like going into the whole thing, we're working with Tiger. I was like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to watch arguably the best short game of all time hit shots around the green. I'm going to learn so much about it. Like, to me, there was zero idea in my mind of like, I'm going to teach him how to chip. It was like the opposite. And then all of a sudden that happens. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now?
So to go a little into the chipping, but not too much, I'm curious how your thought process, you leave Isleworth, right? Or you that week, right? All of a sudden this chipping, and you're probably still not thinking like it's the end of the world chipping, right? Like it's just like, he hasn't played in a while. Yes, he hit some bad shots. Yes, he doesn't normally do that, right? But this is Tiger Woods, right? So give me just a little insight, like behind the scenes, of what your mentality was in the few months from Isleworth to, I believe, Waste Management was, and that was so like 2 months. Are you even thinking about the chipping so much at that point, or are you deeply in like looking for answers, really diving into it? How are you spending your time with like, how am I helping Tiger Woods in the next 2 months here?
I mean, he couldn't, after that, like we would go into his backyard and he couldn't chip.
Couldn't chip.
And that's like, he couldn't chip. I couldn't sleep. It was great.
so then what's going on through your mind when you're getting closer to him making it to the Phoenix Open, which was very, very rough to watch, but like, was there any signs it was better or no?
Not really. I mean, there was this element of like, and it's funny because like all the things that people would typically say, oh, the face has got to be more open, or he's got to use the bounce. And it's like, like no, like yeah, of course, right? Like, okay, well, at least with using the bounce. But like to me, it's sort of like, a couple things. One, it was like, okay, if you were to take Tiger in 2000 or as a junior, he could take the face back open, he could take it back shut, he could take it inside, he could take it outside, and he's still going to make contact with the ball and get it on the green more or less. And there's enough people out on tour who have the face, the head, look all different places and can still more or less chip a ball onto the green. Um, so it's like that didn't quite add up. Plus, I had footage of him that I had shown to a few teachers who were like very well known for like short game stuff. That like I would take it back and they're like, "Wow, that looks really good." I would take it halfway down. Wow, that looks really good, and then it would be basically like a total flub. So it was like something else was happening that was outside sort of like the lens of typical kind of like technique stuff. Um, that I'm just like, there's something in here. And I mean, I joked that I wasn't sleeping, but it was like, I mean, I was grinding. I cut up so much footage of him hitting shots in tournaments from TV. Like I had the network send me footage of him at different tournaments over the years. And on my computer, I have like all these individual cut up him hitting shots from everywhere on TV or whatever. So I was grinding, trying to figure it out. And it was a combination of just being like one so determined to be like, what is happening? This is just the weirdest thing ever. Like, what is happening? And then it's easy for your head to start like messing with you a little bit. There's this element of like, people are going to blame me for this. Just sort of that insecurity of like, people are going to be like, oh, you broke Tiger Woods, whatever. And it's like, man, I'm trying to like keep this so simple and nothing of the short game touch it. I'm just trying to solve it. But it's like, it's very easy to kind of like, especially with a little bit of a, an air quotes technical background, to have that be sort of a certain narrative and to kind of be a scapegoat. So there's a lot of like my own personal sort of like ego and insecurities that was like, I'm going to get blamed for this, etc. But I was also just super determined to try to figure it out. And going into waste management, it was like you kind of knew that like it could be pretty ugly. So
in that time, like, was everything full swing wise kind of like just put to the side, and then it's like all hands on deck, like we got to figure this short game stuff out, we'll see
and
what happens.
the short game was definitely prioritized. I mean, I think the swing stuff more or less like like there was a lot that was done in just very simple stuff, like general shape, keep it wider, don't hang back on it, like try not to necessarily stay super left, like but not like move to your right, but just like let yourself be somewhat athletic. Like a lot of things cleaned up just through kind of like sort of like get him outside of any sort of like mental constraints and just kind of cue sort of like some old feels that he had. Like I mean, he's Tiger, right? So pretty quickly, I think things got fairly better with that. But the short game was like the biggest thing that was just like, we got to figure this out. So that was the priority for that window. And then he went to Torrey Pines after that. And there was this session where he was on the range and he was like literally like chunking balls and shanking it. And Pat Perez and Billy Horschel were there. And I was literally sitting there behind him. And
and they're giving him like advice, aren't they?
Yeah. And it was so surreal. Anyway, after that, we were able to figure out some stuff. And we spent the next whatever stretch between then, I believe he didn't play till Augusta again.
Yeah.
And really were able to figure some stuff out. And then at Augusta, he chipped a lot better. So,
oh yeah, much better. Like almost kind of notice any struggles really.
And it was one of those things that I would say, just for me at a personal level, was one of the more impactful things that like my career has like really taught me. It was really good because I learned so much, one, about the short game in general, just like things that I never would have even remotely have thought about through that whole stretch. Stuff that was never talked about by like any teachers or book, like just like really subtle stuff that I think actually really matters. And it just sort of like that adversity like forces you kind of into like the sort of the fire to figure that out a bit. But then, more than that, just like, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, like it's an experience that like kind of puts hair on your chest, right? It's like you're doing it. And for me, I just sort of trusted in just the sort of the personal kind of whatever you want to call it, integrity of like, I'm doing everything I can to help this guy figure it out. And I know people might, use me as a scapegoat, whatever, but like, that's not my focus. I can't worry about that. All I can worry about is like how I can help this guy. And it was just a really great, I feel like, experience for me at a personal level.
how do you kind of view the overall relationship with Tiger and what you worked on and accomplished kind of after that? Because he
Good.
obviously kept continuing to struggle with his body,
Yeah.
right? So did you ever feel like, you know, it's kind of, you can help him a little bit, but then two steps back, or any, you know, like,
Yeah, I mean, he was never really healthy. I mean, he had gotten to the point where he had so much of the disc removed that it was really challenging. And I think when he had the fusion, it was the best thing he could have done for himself physically, at least in terms of being able to play golf. Um, I feel like I feel like we did really good work with his golf swing. Like I feel like his swing changed for the better during that window we were working. He, wasn't really healthy, but then he had the fusion on his back, and he, did one of the most remarkable things in the history of the game. And um, I like to think I played a little bit of a role in that. Whatever that is, like whatever, who knows? But no matter how you slice it, it was an incredible experience to work with him, and it was incredible to be around a guy who almost at a capacity that's unimaginable, like not give up. I mean, has all the money that you would ever need, has all the accolades a professional athlete would ever like set their career out to achieve, is in pain, has had so many surgeries. It doesn't seem like it's something you can get on the other side of, but he just like never gave up. It's like wow, just never, just like every day just was like, okay, let's go out again. Let's go out again. The guy just doesn't give up. And it's just like at such a principle like level, like not like even remotely related to like outcome, just like this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just not gonna give up. That again, like whatever, like it was just an incredible experience for me to be around that. Um, so I'm very, very thankful to him, and then just the overall kind of circumstances of working with him. I mean, I'm not even gonna say it, but yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.